The following program deals with a controversial
subject.
The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation.
The viewer is invited to make a judgment based on all available information.
The top talents in the comic book business are here to tell everything they know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Tuesday night, another Industry of Comics episode 48 tonight. We have a very interesting show. It's been 3 weeks since the news of Diamond's bankruptcy, and I expected us to talk about it for about 2 weeks. I didn't think it would go third straight week, but the fallout continues. The news continues to roll out. We start hearing from some of the bigger people in the industry talking about this, here and there, and new info drops every day. And there has been some big
Brian,
info
bigger
that
than
dropped
Jesse
today.
and I.
Well, who knows? Who knows? How you guys doing?
Great.
I'm doing awesome. Great weekend, great week. I think if you look beyond the Diamond story, you look at the industry, the direction it's going, there are a lot of sales out there, and sales, like the big man always says in retail, sales solve everything. And that's what's happening right now.
Amen. So, sales are not happening for some people in the industry right now, which is kind of a bummer. And Diamond has not been shipping very well for many moons now. And one of the things that you guys talked about recently was the fact that you've been in some stores and you've seen empty shelves because they're not getting their books.
Yeah, it was a crazy weekend. Me and Shannon, what we do on Saturday, traditionally on a Saturday, unless there's a convention, which there's a convention this Saturday, we go to about 5 to 7 comic book stores and try to support them, whether it's buying bag and boards, back issues, and then obviously we always go to their new issue stands to see, okay, what can we kind of get, whether it be Uncle Scrooge's or whatever that we perform very well with, that we can sell at full price and not deal with discounts and all that. We never ask for a discount. But when you go into stores and you just see emptiness and you see gaps, it's kind of interesting. The one thing that Dennis knows is you never want gaps in your store. What you do, you spread it out. If you have 10 items for 3 and you have 3 gaps, you don't keep those 10 items in one row, you spread it out. And to see these gaps was crazy in all 5 stores. We ended up going to, believe it was 6 stores. We ended up going to 6 stores on Saturday and we ended up buying 2 new issues that we could actually find because everything was out. And the only thing we heard people on the phone or talking to customers that came in, hey, we should get that next week. And that's not something a comic book store owner should have to deal with, is saying we'll get it next week. Hopefully we'll get it next week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and there's a lot of, here's the problem. And it's a new problem. Now we have scramble buying. If you had your orders in at Diamond, those books, a lot of those books are now in limbo. They might be on a truck that's waiting for Diamond to pay them before it's unloaded. They might be at the printer waiting for a truck to pick them up that Diamond hasn't paid. They might be sitting in Diamond's warehouse and the substitute staff that's actually there doesn't know how to catalog them, and they might be sitting on a pallet that hasn't even been unloaded yet. And then the retailer who gets shorted that product immediately goes to one of the other places where you can get product. And then they buy up all that product. So that means the people who were buying from Penguin Random House, buying their Marvels, they all of a sudden need more of a product. It's gone. And the product just disappears because everybody's scrambling from here to here to fill whatever order they can. When in fact, the product was there. The supply has been filled. The printer printed what all the 3 companies ordered for the order taking. And that's something else that somebody reminded me of. Lunar actually buys all the books from all the publishers. because Discount Comic Book Service buys from everybody as well. So they just don't distribute for the other companies. They buy it for themselves. So there are places that you're going to be able to go to buy this stuff. But where's the stuff?
Yeah. And keep in mind, we don't know what the trustee in the bankruptcy is saying. Yep. He might be saying you can only pay UPS XYZ, and yep. UPS is saying, well, XYZ isn't enough to allow us to ship more product, even though you have this yep. investment company saying, well,
and we said that 2 weeks ago, right when it was announced.
Yeah, even though they're saying everything forward they're going to take care of, but it's still in bankruptcy. So it's not like they're writing checks left and right now, because the trustee might say that's not in the budgets, or you can't do that right now.
Well, and we've yet to hear from any retailers, because here's the problem. Let's just say you're retailer X, and retailer X owes Diamond $20,000. We don't. If Retail X was contacted by Diamond and said, hey, we can't ship you this stuff until you start paying off that $20K, are they going to go out on Facebook and go, Diamond's halted my orders because I'm $20,000 in arrear and they have to have that before they can start shipping new product? No, you're going to say, oh my God, I was shorted 2 weeks in a row. But we're not going to know that, because Diamond can't say that.
Yeah.
The lawyers and judges aren't going to let them say that, or aren't going to tell us. Yeah. We're down to the point where it's up to the retailers to tell us the truth. And I frankly, I think it's a pride factor that they're never going to tell us the truth about that.
Well, it's a pride factor, and it's a legality issue, because anything you put socially can be used against you in a default judgment. So they have to be very careful on how they speak right now. So, and unfortunately, and I want to make sure people understand before we bring our guest on. This has been the way it's been for retailers forever. So it's not like it's all of a sudden, hey, retailers, oh, how dare they? No, retailers have always owed Diamond money because the way they're set up. So I don't want people out there going to retailers and saying how you changed the course of the distribution with Diamond by not paying them. No, that's always been that way. We don't know if people have net 7, net 10, net 15, net 13, or 30. Penguin, it's net 60, which is crazy to think.
But as of next week, they have net 60 days before the shit starts hitting the fan. Right. Jesse, you want to tell them about the April 1st?
I think we'll let Bryan when Brian's ready for that. I don't know if you want to bring on Ben and talk first.
I do, because one of the biggest things that we've heard from people out there is when it first happened, Ben Dunn dropped a blog post that was just very eye-opening, and we read it here on the show. And so we've been very lucky to have Ben on the show, and all three of us here really look at Ben Dunn as somebody with a ton of respect. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bring on co-founder of Antarctic Press, over 40-year vet in the industry, creator, Ben Dunn. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing, Ben?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. It's an honor.
Well, thank you, my friend. It's just a big honor for us.
I wish it were under better circumstances.
Yeah. Well, this is one thing I think about comics is that the industry may go through rough sailing, but comics will survive.
Yeah. And can you kind of give us just a little bit of your feelings in that first initial blog post that you put out when you heard the news, which was it really hit center of the chest. You're writing that post. What were your initial feelings when you wrote that post?
Well, it was definitely, a feeling of melancholy, it was definitely a feeling of sadness, because, it's just something that I just don't want to see happening to such a industry that brings so much joy to people. It's just one of those things where, who doesn't enjoy sitting down and reading a good comic book, being taken, to worlds of imagination and stuff. So it just saddens me to see that we've gotten to this point where our beloved industry is now going through some very rough times, and there's a very good chance that it may be transformed into something we don't recognize or may be gone forever. So it's just one of those things that I lament all the time, because it's just something that I always assumed would be around forever. It's one of those things where you love something and you just hope that it's going to be around forever. It's just, but sometimes reality just gobsmacks you in the face, and then you have to face the reality that things are changing.
Yeah, in a big way.
Yes, absolutely. And how we adapt to that change, it's going to take the industry into some uncharted territory. And I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm sure someone's going to come up with something, and who knows where, what trajectory we'll be heading, as far as comics are concerned. I mean, there's always going to be a back issue market. There's always going to be people putting out comics. The question is will there be comic book stores, that just sell comics? And I feel that those days may no longer are coming to an end. That's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah. And backstage when we were talking, you had mentioned that, the comics world went through this type of upheaval before with distribution back in the day of Cap City and Marvel, doing their thing. And, there was changes that happened because of that, but the comics industry endured. You see big differences in how the comic industry operates now, and how there's so many different things that are going on, how they treat creators, how the big publishers treat their IPs in general, how big publishers are run. And I think most of us realize that for the big publishers, those characters will still be there, but there's so many small press comic publishers and small press creators that are going to feel the heat over this in a major way. And Antarctic Press is one of those small press publishers that is going on their 40th year in the industry. And I mean, this year should be a happy, exciting time for you guys. And now it's kind of scary.
Yes, I mean, there's no question about it. I mean, the thing is that I'm sure all of you, have experienced the trials and tribulations of the comic industry. The worst thing that is, to me, the worst thing that happens is when people just get greedy. They don't know how to. All they're looking out for them is for themselves, and that's fine. I mean, you have to look out for number one. I mean, there's no question about it. The thing is that how much do you do before it becomes detrimental to everything else around you? If you pollute the water, then nobody can drink. And that's the thing. You may be satisfied with that for a short period of time, but eventually things like that catch up with you. I mean, we all experienced the black and white bust, the boom and bust of the 80s. Then we experienced the 90s, which caused the demise of the entire the direct market because Diamond became a monopoly. Now, if Diamond was smart, they would have taken that and tried to expand the market. Try to get into areas that are not traditional. Also, I have to lay some of the blame for the big two because they abandoned newsstand, and I thought, to me, that was a big mistake because, one of the things about comics is that it used to be plentiful and accessible. You could find comics almost anywhere, any corner market, 7-Eleven, things like that. And they were just all over the place. Now they've been relegated to comic stores, which, I don't, that helped open the market for small publishers such as myself, and that was a big advantage. But, I'm sure that back in the day, we had 5,000 to 8,000 comic book stores at one time.
Yeah.
Thousands of them.
Yeah.
You know, now we're down to what, maybe 1,500 at the most. You know, and I don't see how an industry can survive on just those comic stores.
Well,
Yes,
Ben, let me ask a couple questions though.
sure.
So, what year was Antarctic Press founded?
1985.
85. So from 85 to roughly 95, you had Capital and Friendly Franks and Diamond and Heroes World and all of those different distributors
Right.
that you fed books to. And at one point there was like 10 distributors. I don't know if they all bought Antarctic Press, but you know, they were in the business.
Yeah. Most
What
of
was it? What was it like collecting from all 10 of those distributors? It's one of the things that we really don't have like a real good snapshot story about.
It was well, for me, for us, it was great. You know, we had you can never have too many clients wanting to buy your product. You know, that's the thing, is that and they all offer various services. They all offered various ways of handling things. You know, some distributors bought more than others, of course. You know, but we always felt that the more the ability to get our comics into more hands was to us, you know, the whole idea of doing comics to begin with. You know, and we were happy as you know, we were happy as anything. You know, but then when Marvel announced, when Marvel announced they were going to do their own distribution, I didn't really think much about it, to be honest. You know, I just thought, oh well, I guess Marvel's going to try to do their own thing now. You know, but I didn't realize at the time how much that was going to affect, you know, the direct market. And you know, and then when what really happened, what really caused me concern is when DC went exclusive with Diamond. Okay, when DC went exclusive with Diamond, and then we were actually offered exclusivity with Diamond, you know, but we turned it down because we thought it was a bad idea. You know, we thought it was a bad idea because if you become exclusive to one distributor, you know, that chokes the market. You know, it doesn't allow people to compete. And that's what you really want. You want people to compete so that you have a more healthy and robust and you know, viral industry. You know, when you have just somebody controlling everything, then there's no reason for them.
What? So back then, I'm sorry, let me just follow up though, Ben.
Yeah, sure, no problem.
So around that time, that was still a 15% kickback to the distributor, right? Correct?
Yes, we sold usually at 60% off cover price.
Okay.
You know, and whatever their discount they offered their retailers, we didn't, you know, we weren't really privy to that. I assume it was like 50 to 40, depending on how much you ordered.
Correct. So, were there any distributors that would be like, hey, Diamond's offering you exclusive at, you know, 60 or, you know, 60% off. We'll offer 55 just to keep you with us. You know, that kind of stuff. Was there little nickels and dimes that were being bandied about?
Well, not to us, I don't believe, because we were small potatoes. You know, I'll be frank with you. I mean, we weren't that large, but you know, but we did have a following, and we did sell enough to justify being an offer and exclusivity. You know, but we turned it down, and but they still carried our book, which was fine. You know, and we just did the thing. We didn't get you know, we didn't get prime placement, and I don't know what kind of deal it meant to be exclusive.
Well, at least you had the A portion of the back end of the book, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
That I remember every time I'd go through it, you'd be like, man, if I was a publisher, I'd definitely be in this A column here, because that's where all the bangers are.
Yeah, that is true. It did work to our advantage for sure.
So then when Diamond, I'm sorry, Jesse, let me just follow. I just want to try to get a base.
Okay, yeah, go
ahead.
ahead.
Numbers here.
Yeah.
So then when everything went to Diamond, when you saw the writing on the wall, and Friendly Franks had to close down, and Capital had to, you know, basically admit that they couldn't sustain it any longer, and then you had to go to Diamond.
Yes.
Yeah, were they magnanimous as that, or did they start going to you going, hey, by the way, we offered you exclusive and you didn't take it, but now you have to come to us. Did they say, we're going to need you to do this, this, and this that you've never done before? Or was it just business as usual?
No, they actually, didn't make any onerous demands on us. We basically, it was business as usual. We didn't get the preem spot, the front of the catalog for like all the exclusive areas, but that was fine. It didn't really bother us that much, and they were, actually, our rep was always very nice to us. So we didn't have any problems with Diamond at all.
So they were benevolent monopoly when they became the monopoly, and the industry was at 8,000 to 10,000 retailers.
Yeah, for a monopoly, they didn't really act like a monopoly. To be honest, they could have really put a stranglehold on the whole.
No, exactly. I just want to basically set this up for the audience so they can understand. It wasn't like we got you motherfuckers now. We want this and this and this and this.
Yeah, they could have. Honestly, they could have.
And then how was it when the crash happened?
Well, I mean, right after it really, the crash actually came about, I think, during the whole Image thing where, Image was notorious for shipping their books late, and then they did a crossover with Valiant, with Deathmate or something like that, and that was a huge debacle at the time. I mean, it was just, I hear horror stories about that, but that particular time period, and that's to me, it didn't seem like it at the time, but I think that's when things started to become a little bit wonky, as far as the direct market was concerned. When books start shipping late, then that really affects the whole industry. Because Marvel and DC, for the longest time, they always ship their books monthly and on time. You might have a fill-in issue here and there, but for the most part, their whole business model was getting comic books out on a monthly basis or on a regular basis, and they always shipped on time. Once books started to ship late, then you can't really plan. All your plans about getting a book on a certain time, they're out the window, and that's where, Diamond should have instituted a policy. Hey, we're not exclusive to your book unless we know you're going to ship the damn thing on time.
Exactly.
And that's where they should have, pulled their card. You said, we're not soliciting this book unless we see the whole thing, okay, and that you could already to print it, because then they'll know that they can ship the product on time, when it's ordered. When a book is late or extremely late, it's too late. It's people have already spent the money they had planned on getting a book, and everything is just thrown out the window. So late comics was another factor of helping with the eventual where we're leading up to right now. And it's still a problem even right now. People shipping books late.
What about customer service on the part of Diamond? Because that's one of the big things that we always hear about is that, their customer service was pretty god awful, especially when it came to shipping books and damaged books. And you hear from retailers all the time about, it's a you never know when you're going to get a decent book from Diamond, and it caused so many problems. And it kind of, recently it's gotten even worse. I mean, how often would you hear that from retailers?
Well, I mean, I would hear it, every once in a while. Most of the time, they really wouldn't complain, as far as my own personal thing. I mean, they would grouse about Diamond and say, "Oh, I wish they would do this. I wish they would do that." And I'm sure they let Diamond, retailers are very vocal a lot, and they'll tell Diamond, "Hey, you need to get your act together, man." It's whether Diamond listened. That was the big thing. Right. I'm sure Diamond did a lot of lip service and say, "Yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that," or they may just get the attitude, "Hey, we're a monopoly. What are you going to do about it? Where else are you going to get your comics?" And now they're learning that customer service is everything. If you don't have good customer service, people are just not going to. When you're in that position where Diamond was, they had the opportunity to really expand the industry, but they just didn't, because I think they just had too much hubris, and they had too much arrogance, thinking that oh yeah, we got these guys under control. Where else are you going to order your comics, huh? Where else are you going to order?
Exactly.
Well, and I remember countless times saying, Diamond, if I treated my customers like you treat yours, I would be out of business.
Right. Exactly. And
so
they just didn't listen. That was the biggest problem.
Yep. So Ben, I want to go all the way back to the beginning about your post. Power of a post is very important. So I'm going to ask you a question here. Was that a write and send, or was it a write, look at it, rethink, rewrite it, and send? Was it A or B?
Well, it was definitely a stream of thought, but I did go back and try to catch all the grammatical errors that I could. And then I felt that I had to get this off my chest, so I went in, and then I also had to let our readers and our fans and everything know what was going on, because I didn't feel like I didn't feel like I was doing them a service by keeping them in the dark, about our current situation. I had to maybe prepare for them, that there might be an eventuality that we may not be the same company that they've known us for the last 40 years. We may have to pivot and change, depending on the dynamics of the market.
Yep.
And that's what I was preparing them for.
Ben, maybe you can help our audience understand. And I've had a lot of conversations this week with retailers and small publishers like yourself. No insult meant by that.
No problem. Yeah, I'm used to it.
How important is it for a small publisher like you guys to get that check for what you've already produced and what you've already sent to Diamond?
Well, for us back in the 80s and 90s and the early 2000s, we've served a function to allow up and coming creators to get their store or get their comics into stores, and that allowed them to see if there was a market for what they were creating. If the series hit off really well, then we knew we had a hit on our hands and that people wanted it. Now people can do crowdfunding and do their own thing. They could put out digital comics all day long. So our role as a comic book publisher has been greatly diminished. Now we still have the one advantage of getting a comic into a comic store. It's not as easy to get into a comic store as it is to get onto Kickstarter or to Indiegogo or all these other crowdfunding sites, or to just simply post a digital version of your comic. But there is a cachet to seeing a comic sitting on a shelf in a comic book store, just so people can see it and look at it. It's one thing to see a comic book on a computer screen. It's another thing to see it on a shelf where it's right in front of you. You can pick it up, you can flip through it, you can smell it, you can admire the art and just feel the feel the paper, things like that. We're still human beings who like to feel and hold and touch things. We're still visceral in that regard. So that, I think comic store serves a very important function in letting people come in and actually sample the product, before they buy it. And plus, the idea of getting a physical comic, is that once you buy it, it's yours to own forever. Unlike a digital comic, where at any time, it can be pulled from you, or it doesn't have any value other than what you paid for it. I mean, no one's going to rebuy a digital comic. It just hasn't happened. There's no back issue market for digital comic. So that's where physical comics, are still remain important in my eyes, anyway. I mean, I could foresee a time where maybe physical comics are no longer, valued anymore. But paper products have been around for thousands and thousands of years, and as far as I'm concerned, as long as I can keep making comics, then I'll continue to do so. but it's just one of those things where you have to understand that comic stores serve a very valuable function, I believe, in the distribution of comics. And that's where, but unfortunately, it for whatever reason, it's becoming more and more, becoming less and less of importance to a new generation or newer generations,
Right.
and that's very sad, to me.
Yeah.
Ben,
Yeah,
I think it's sad to a lot of us.
Yeah, it is a generational thing, because you got the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s folks always had comic books, always had poppies, always got paper cuts, always smelling the comics. I don't know if you could actually smell a comic today and get a smell, but Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze, Modern, maybe some Copper. But yeah, it is a generational thing. And the thing is, you don't want to wait to think about the foregoing generation when that generation becomes relevant. You want to do it 10, 15, 20 years before. So
Yes, exactly. I mean, also like I said, the accessibility of comics has changed. As we us growing up, we could go to a corner store and buy a comic. There was the ubiquitous spinner rack sitting there in the corner of the 7-Eleven, and you would run over there, you spin through it and see, oh, that looks pretty good. Plop down your 35 cents, your $1 or whatever, and walked out with a comic book that was yours. And that to me is where we're losing that generation, is the accessibility. And I know that DC is trying to bring that back sort of by having their comics in dollar stores, and I think that's a smart move. I think what DC is trying to do is I think a very good idea that should be brought back. And it actually I've been trying to advocate that for a long time, but everyone keeps telling me, oh, that's an old-fashioned model, no one's going to care. I will almost guarantee you put a spinner rack anywhere where there's high traffic, people are going to stop to look. Okay, because if they see a big old spinner rack of comics, I mean, who wouldn't just want to check it out, see what's on there?
Well, actually, I had a conversation 20 years ago. That spinny rack is it's tactile, like you were talking about, but
Right.
in a different way. It was really the first fidget spinner where, there's no way you walked up to that as a kid and didn't spin it. And
Right.
that made you want to spin the rack. They used to have flat racks. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the flat racks.
I remember the flat racks, yes.
And then somebody had the genius idea to spin it. And I think that generated people to go up and touch it and to see those books kind of flicker in front of them like a Nickelodeon. And they would find something on the other side, and we've lost that.
Yes, and plus a spin rack is kind of air of mystery, because you see the books on the front, but what kind of books are in the back? So you flip through all of them. Of course, that ruined the book, but you didn't care.
then you Al Garrett, right?
Yeah.
How much of a change in how people consume comic books, or why they buy comic books, do you think is the cause of this? Because I over the years, especially being in the content creation realm I'm in, where I talk a lot about comic speculation and what the value of on the secondary market of comics, just as much as I talk about what's in the comic, right? How much of that becoming more into the forefront, where people just care about what the comic is worth rather than what's in the comic? Do you think that that's affected a lot of this in the last couple of years?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, the whole back issue market is a huge industry. I mean, I myself collect. I'm sure all of you gentlemen also collect comics, because we love collecting them. It's fun, and we like to collect things that we're nostalgic for. We like to, and with all there's no way in our lifetime could we read every single comic book that's ever been produced. So to me, buying a new comic is like opening up a new adventure. You say, oh, well, what kind of world will this comic take me to place now? And that's the spirit of wonder that we need to reinstill, into younger readers. And the thing about it is that, yes, there's the thing is, it's always about affordability and accessibility, and also giving readers a reason to read. I mean, there's no question. Kids love to read comics. Dogman is successful, manga is successful. If any good comic will find an audience.
Well, that's the beauty of Free Comic Book Day, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's an event to put a comic book into somebody who may have never touched anything in their hand for free, and hope that that one seed plants a tree that will continue to grow through this industry.
Yes, and the parents are also responsible because they're usually the ones who buy the comic.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Of course, when you and I were growing up, I'm sure we got an allowance. When I got my allowance, the first thing I did, luckily on my way to school, there was a convenience store that I walked past every day, and every day I would go in there to see what new comic was available on their spinner rack. I mean, that's how I found out about X-Men. I mean, that's how I found out about Marvel comics, because I was a big Harvey reader when I was growing up. I love Casper, I love Richie Rich, and then a friend of mine says, "Hey, you got to read this X-Men comic." And I said, "X-Men? Isn't that stupid, second-rate team that Marvel used to do?" No, it's really cool this time. You got to check it out. So the first X-Men comic book was off the rack, was X-Men 107. And it was, it's like, oh my God, this is, where have you been all my life? That was the Dave Cockrum issue where he makes fun of the Legion of Superheroes, which I didn't know about. I just thought they were just like, but you could tell. I found out later that you could tell that Dave Cockrum would just, loved drawing Legion of Superheroes and somehow worked them into the X-Men. So,
well, that book right there is Batman 317. And I came home from school one day, and my mom had left a note on the table on spiral bound notebook paper, and just left a pile of change on that paper, and said, "Go across the street and buy yourself a comic book. I'll be home late."
You see, that's the thing. You could buy a comic book as a kid. You see, that's where the kids have lost their agency, because when comics are $5-10, it's I'm not sure what kids are getting it for allowances these days. That's a big major investment if you really want the truth, especially for a kid. Sure. But if you got 35 cents, you got 50 cents, that's nothing. Okay, if you got $1.50 allowance a week, that's 3-4 comics. That's to go home with, and it's like, oh my God, I'm in heaven.
Yeah, and I think the funny part about this is, I'm having these flashbacks of being a 12-year-old selling in a store in 1982 and seeing 10 kids walk in, but these 10 kids only have $1 each, right? And there was this excitement that you're handing them, they're in the quarter bin, right? So they're getting 4 books, so they're getting 2 new issues for 50 cents each, or getting a book off the wall for $1. And the fun of that kid knowing that is his, so whether it be his allowance or if he went and mowed a lawn or did whatever. So I think there is this moment in time where the kids nowadays don't have that experience. They're going in and saying, listen, I got $5, I get 1 book. And that kind of takes the fun out of it, right? If you don't have this accessibility to more. And so that's kind of where we're at. We were talking about last week about if you had $20 in 1982, how many books you walked out of the store. Well, now you might only walk out with 3 books.
Yeah. I mean, $20 in 1984, you could probably buy the entire week's worth of Marvel and DC comics. At that time.
But we also take distribution for granted, right? I mean, most of us comic collectors don't even think about that world, and I think that's what's important about the show is how important that is for the comics world, because there's different ways that people get their comics now. Obviously, they get them from comic shops, they get them from crowdfunding sources, they get them from eBay, they get them digitally. Like, there's so many different ways to get these comics nowadays. And are you worried that are you going to be able to take Antarctic Press and continue in a way that's good for? I guess what I'm trying to get at is Antarctic Press has this overall feeling of helping the the comic creator, the small guy, the little guy that can get their book out to a larger audience. People like Larry Higgins, Niobe Comics, Tom Hutchison, Big Dog Inc., Sinopa Comics. These guys who are in the chat right now are. I remember when Larry, had Niobe first starting to show up in comic shops and how important that felt to him, and that's not going to happen anymore. Do you see Antarctic Press being that place for people in the future that can kind of foster this smaller creator mentality or small press publishing thing in the future? Because today's thing that you put out changes all that, or the other day that you published changes all that.
Can I tack on to that as well?
Yeah.
For the foreseeable short future, how many small publishers are going to take a chance on a nobody's creator's idea until there's more stability in this market?
Not many. I don't think. It's just the reality of it right now. I mean, despite what you might think of Diamond, not saying Diamond was not perfect for sure, but at least they gave small publishers an opportunity to get their idea out there in the marketplace. And that's something that both Lunar and Penguin have shown no desire to pursue. And that's really a shame, because if we don't have small publishers to give an opportunity for young and up and coming creators, then the whole industry starts to stagnate and becomes sterile, because we need inflection of new and creative talent in order to keep the industry alive and vibrant, because as creators get older, they're sort of, I don't want to disparage anyone, but they're sort of set in their ways in a way, and sometimes they just don't have the pulse of what is important, to readers now.
Yeah.
And also it gives. I mean, if Eastman and Laird came up with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles today, chances are nobody would have found out about it. Nobody would have read it. Nobody would have cared.
I said that on last week's show.
Yeah, and it's true. And so we're basically denying the next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle the opportunity to get out there, without the small publisher to, give opportunity to creators. And a lot of creators who work for Antarctic Press went on to work for Marvel and DC.
Yes.
They moved on to Marvel and DC. A lot of creators found success, with the comic with us, and went on and did their own thing. And you found huge success, later on. But we gave them the opportunity, and that's where now I know that times have changed, and small publishers like ourselves are no longer as needed, because people can do crowdfunding, like I said, and things like that. Like I said, our only big advantage now, or any small publisher now, is to get their comics in the comic stores. And that's unfortunately, starting to collapse. Now, I'm not going to try to be doom and gloom. I want to be optimistic, that somebody is going to see an opportunity, and create something original and fresh that will allow comics, especially from up and coming creators, opportunity to get their creation into the marketplace.
Do you have any idea why Lunar and Penguin and Random House are not accepting any new publishers, or smaller publishers? What's the reason for it? That blows me away, and I think a lot of the collectors out there that aren't, in the industry don't understand why you just can't jump over to Lunar or jump over to Penguin Random House. Can you explain that to us? What you know about it?
I can't speak for all publishers.
Yes.
But for us, our own experience has been that we have, for the better part of a year or two, to try to get in both Penguin and they show no interest in carrying Interbooks. I don't know why. They don't give us a reason. They don't email us. They don't contact us. Lunar has sent us applications like 3 or 4 times. We filled them out, and we never hear from them again.
Can I play devil's advocate though for a second, Ben?
Sure, of course.
And I'm not trying to paint the big two
No,
as
no. I mean,
the evils.
I don't.
But if you're Marvel and you're DC and you now have this exclusive home where that's where you get your product from, do you want everybody else below you being a leech off of your system?
I can't answer that. I mean, yes, I could see why they wouldn't care. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, who owns Marvel and who owns DC? Okay, Marvel is owned by Walt Disney. Okay, and they have billions of dollars. To them, Marvel is a nothing thing to them. It's unimportant. Okay, they only keep Marvel around because it's a small part of their thing,
IP.
and they have enough money to keep it around. So to Marvel, they don't care. Okay, they as long as the money streams comes in and they keep their jobs, they don't care what happens to the actual industry. Okay, because that's not their concern. Their only concern is to make money for themselves.
Well, but what I'm getting at is, and obviously, yeah, Bob Iger does not care what's on Penguin Random House's, product page.
Right.
But David Gabriel has 50 comic books that he wants to promote at Penguin this month. And David wants everybody going onto that Penguin page to buy as many Marvel comics as possible. If they have to spread that order out to add, this indie, that indie, I'm sure they've done some kind of bean counting marketing survey that said for every indie comic sold, that's one less Marvel comic that got bought by the you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I can understand that. And the same goes for DC. DC
Yeah.
is owned by Warner Brothers. Now, Warner Brothers is not as big as Disney, but, they're still a pretty big corporation. Now, the one thing, so to me, DC has more of a vested interest to try to sell more books, because otherwise, Warner's could just say, well, why the hell are we keeping DC around? Okay, why don't we just license their characters and be done with DC? For whatever reason, Warner Brothers is keeping DC around, and who knows? Now, like I said, DC is making some inroads into trying to expand their distribution, because I think the thinking is that if we expand our distribution so large, that we can't, be, sold off or, closed down, then we'll become so important, a part of their revenue stream, then they can't justify shutting us down, and to me that's actually a good idea, because I think that's anything you can do to get comics into the hands of more readers is a good thing, and that's to me the salvation of comics is that you want more people to read comics.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but along that realm though, remember what happened in the mid 90s? When the crash happened, DC was like, okay, all of these really good indies, how about we start buying some of them? Let's buy Wildstorm and get Jim over here. And then Marvel was like, let's buy Malibu and get Rob over here. And so the big guys, when the crash happened, took that opportunity to buy up the medium guys.
Yes, but that was when they were still publishers. They
Right.
weren't owned by Disney or
Right.
DC. They wanted to expand their the reason for that was they wanted to expand, their market share. And sometimes when you want to expand your market share, you buy out some of your competitors. And that's just business.
But do you see anything like that might be happening in the next 6 months to a year while this is going on?
I highly doubt it. What they'll probably buy they'll buy individual IPs. Okay, if there's a big IP that is huge, let's say, I do Fishman, and he turns out to be a huge hit, or like
Dogman, absolutely.
Like let's say you start off doing it in this comic, a huge hit, then they'll buy it because they'll say. They'll make you an offer. Say, hey,
Marvel says, let's have Fishman meet Howard the Duck for an issue.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's a hit. And then, hey, let's have him hang out with, Jeff the Land Shark as well.
Exactly. So,
So-
to me, that would be their modus operandi, is to find out what's hot. What creator, what book is creating buzz and is getting a huge following. And they would just outright buy it.
Right.
JSS
So-
Brooklyn raises a really interesting question. He says, so Dennis and Jesse and everybody, you're anticipating a buyout of Diamond ultimately, and that's where we kind of need to go with this, right?
So go with that thing I sent you. You
Yeah.
probably want to put that up before you go into that. By the way, I just bought all the rights to Fishman while you guys were talking, so I now own that property.
Good luck, sir.
So you guys go ahead and create it. I own it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
Can't
funny
wait to
part,
read it.
before you guys talk about this, is one of the things that I think is going on coming from corporate America is Lunar has an expectation they have to perform for anybody coming in. So right now they might be saying, listen, if we bring anybody in, Ben, we can't get your product out on time, because expectations with what we have now, we're barely getting stuff out now. So that might be a reason right now. So anyways, go ahead, Brian.
Well, actually, Brian, but hold on with this. And let me just say, that's not this far away. That's 2 months.
Well, let's explain what's going on, because nobody, I think, real in out there knows this. That there's been news to this, and the news is that Diamond is trying to sell off everything by April 1st, or I mean, they have to figure it out by April 1st, or they're done, right? Is that what we're reading out of this?
It's worse than that, Brian. If they don't sell Diamond by then, they're going to lay off everybody, and that means poof, it's gone.
Yeah, that's probably the worst possible way to try to sell your business, right? Hey, by the way, let's negotiate. Oh, so you're just then close your doors. So why do I have to buy a business that's then close its doors when I can just reinvent the business the next day?
Well, and Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong, but if a potential buyer looked at this, they go, oh, if I buy April 2nd, I don't have to pay a single dollar of severance pay to 168 employees.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah,
And they
ladies
don't
and
have to
gentlemen,
accrue all the debt.
Emmett from Haven from Heroes joins us, another retailer, longtime retailer in this industry. How you doing, Emmett?
I'm doing better now. I'm doing better. We're going to have to start the hard stuff now before April 1st comes.
Welcome.
So I literally, your last two videos, first of all, I had tons of shout out, and let me thank you personally. I felt so much love because everything that Jesse and I have said on this show for the last year got reiterated in Emmett's Dead Media video, I think 2 videos ago, correct?
Yeah.
And then everything but the fact that we're right where we are now, that you did that video on Diamond before that April 1st announcement announcement came out, and it's just like, well, poof, that didn't, just all through it. I actually watched that video after I saw the April 1st thing, and I was like, oh, well, this didn't age well.
Well, this is what the report basically says. It says Diamond Comic Distributors is actively attempting to secure a buyer for its business operations other than its alliance division, which is the gaming division, right?
Yeah, because they already have a letter of intent to buy it.
Yes.
Yeah. Didn't somebody offer $39 million for Alliance?
Yep. And it says, although we are hopeful to locate a buyer, if our efforts are unsuccessful, Diamond will unfortunately have to cease operations. While we continue to pursue a buyer, the Diamond business will continue as usual.
But they put out for April. They put out for April orders already, right? Isn't that what we just? I think that's what we just ordered, right?
Maybe to get Elon Musk to buy it.
Sure.
Why not Amazon or something like that? I know a lot of people are talking about.
Why not one of the printers?
Yeah.
Print it, send it.
That'd be like a Charlton Comics 2.0.
Right. So Ben, when you read something like this, is this also giving you a deadline to say, oh my gosh, we got to April 1st to have our SHIT together?
Yes. I mean, they actually, by announcing this, of course, my brother pointed out, oh, that's April Fool's Day. So,
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
brought
even think
that up
about
too,
that.
so Yeah, it's not great news. I'll be honest, but at least we can make preparations. It's like if you know the comet is coming, you might as well hunker down and get ready for the impact. So and hopefully you'll survive. The coming devastation. So a lot could happen between now and April. I mean, that's 3 months. What, 2 months? 3 months away about.
Yeah.
No,
So
2.
yeah, so 2 months away. So a lot could happen in 60 days.
Yeah.
Maybe they will find a buyer. Who knows? Or maybe another distributor could come out of the blue and say, hey, we'll buy all of Diamond's accounts, and then we'll start servicing them, and that could be something because, Diamond probably has a really good account list.
Well, can we talk about that a little bit? Because that brings up
pull box.
That brings up a very interesting question when you start talking about people buying all of Diamond's accounts. Because not all of Diamond's accounts are, what's the word I'm looking for? Maybe up to date, maybe Diamond owes them money or they owe Diamond money,
It's possible.
Well, here's the thing, and it's what I've been saying since at least 2010. The one thing this industry, and no offense, Ben, because you're one of the good guys, but the one thing that this industry has never been able to get is our collective customers. They can't get Emmett's customer list and Jesse's customer list and my customer list. And even if I don't sell new comics, I still have the emails and the contact information of every customer I ever had in a spreadsheet. Those are valuable pieces of information. They've come up with a lot of schemes to try to get that. Hey, sell digital comics for us. Your customers will log in and give us their email and information, and we'll give you a nickel every time that they buy a digital comic. No, we're not interested in that. Okay, and no offense, Emmett, I know you love Pullbox, but that was what Pullbox was for. That was Comixology's attempt to get retailers to put this free service on their web pages so that everybody would have a way to sign up for their polls, and Pullbox would get all those emails. When Pullbox sold to Amazon, or when Comixology sold to Amazon, they took all of those emails and started soliciting all of those customers.
Well, I think that's the only reason Amazon wanted them.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And because of that, eventually Amazon closed that whole division and everything disappeared in poof, and all that money was just in the wind. And everybody's been trying to figure out a way to end run the retailer. I don't think the list of retailers is that valuable anymore.
Well, like I said, it just depends on what comes out of it. Like I said, it could be that there may be somebody out there who just says, you know what, I want to distribute, comics, and I'm going to do things differently, and see how things go. Maybe I'll give you excellent service. I will make sure that, the people, the products we carry is of high quality, and I'll make you feel like, there's always an opportunity when you see something like this. And I'm just, maybe somebody will come up within the next 60 days that will basically take over for Diamond. I don't know. I can't predict that. But, we hear, at least as far as Antarctic Press is concerned, is that we're preparing for a worst case scenario.
Yeah.
So right now, you are not shipping a single book to Diamond.
No, we are. We are actually. We have. This is our attitude toward things. The book's already been printed. The books have already been paid for. So we could just say it might. To our feeling is that we're gonna just have faith,
Right.
in the system. If we don't deliver, then we feel like we're just making more problem, adding to the problem, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, we may take a hit if Diamond doesn't pay,
Right.
but we're willing to take that hit, because we feel like we need to do something to at least help them out. Now, because I'll be we'll be honest, Diamond has treated us pretty well as a small publisher. There's a lot of opportunities they could have just, give us a hard time, and they didn't. And that's where I feel like we at least owe them something. And they've until now they've always paid on time. They always answered our phone calls, unlike Lunar and Random Penguin House, and we always could speak to somebody if we had a problem. And if they had a problem with us, they could contact us and we would try to fix it. And that was the thing, is the communication was important. Now I may not always like how they ran their business, but the one thing I cannot fault them for was communication. We were always in communication if there was a problem that arose between us and Diamond.
And I think the other thing that's also very evident from at least the people that I've talked to about Diamond is that the difference between Diamond and other distributors, Penguin Random House, Lunar, is that the Jeppies, especially Steve, love comic books, and comic books are important to him in a way that maybe business isn't as much as important as the overall overarching thing that is the comic book, and how important it is to keep that going. Whereas it feels like the other ones, like Lunar and stuff like that, they just don't care at this point.
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, I don't want to disparage them, because maybe there's a chance they may still want to pick us up, but all our experiences so far has been not very productive, and we don't. There's going to be a certain amount of time where we just gotta, we can't rely on them. We got to move on. We got to do something for our own survival. So we have to plan for. We have to plan for the worst case scenario, and that's what we're doing right now. We're building the fallout shelter, and we're trying to stock up on supplies. We're very lucky as far as the company is concerned, because we're we're debt free. We don't have much debt, and we try to maintain a transparency in our company, that any creator, no matter who works for us, will get paid. And we tell them, when and how and where, and we try to maintain a level of communication that I feel is important for any publisher, to maintain good relations with, not only your readers and your fans and your creators, and but also just to set an example of how, you could maintain a good relationship with the people that you serve.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We got a lot of
is
creators in the chat also. I'm going to open this up. If there's any creators out there, industry vets that want to jump on, we're going to open it up. So I want to bring in some of these guys. Speaking of
I
that,
think one of the
Tom
the
Hutchinson,
big-
ladies and gentlemen, from Big Dog Inc. Thanks for joining us, Tom.
Hey, Tom.
How are you guys?
Tom,
Tommy,
What's up, Ben?
Tom, did you see what
up?
we gave away 2 weeks ago for the big 3,000th subscriber?
No, I didn't.
We
What was
gave
that?
away your Big Dog Inc. Natalie Saunders Wicked West.
Oh, nice. Excellent. Yeah, I saw you guys a few weeks ago talking with Nick Barucci and stuff. I keep my eye on you guys. I'm seeing what's going on.
So,
Hey, Ben, I just want to ask you real fast. So during this BK, is your product actually locked up, or do you actually have access to recoup that product back if needed?
I don't know, to be honest. I assume that if Diamond were to go under, that we may be able to retrieve back whatever's left in the inventory, or they could just be sold off to the highest bidder. I don't know.
Right.
But we're not going to rely on that if we have too many
Right.
comics already as it is. So we're not we don't want any more, to be honest.
Ladies and
exactly.
gentlemen,
Well,
creator of
Tom-
Niobe Comics, Larry Higgins joins
Tom.
us.
When you left Diamond, did you not leave your product and they just sold it off, or did you bring back your comics that you had?
By the time that actually, I just found out because when I went from doing it myself to moving over to Aspen Comics, they published me for a few years. And then after that, we were on our own. So I actually did find out that there was still a little bit of stuff from the Aspen era at Diamond recently, but nothing of any sort of significance. And when Diamond would buy from us, they would overbuy, for the purpose of reorders and stuff, but it was never any sort of a significant, like there's thousands of copies sitting in a warehouse somewhere. If we sold 5,000 units of a book, maybe 500 of them are sitting around for reorders, and they got pretty much absorbed pretty fast because we always had reorders. So
all the extra issues of Critter are at my house. I got 500 of them right here, Tom.
Hey, so Ben, you said you had a lot of books. What do you end up doing with them? Do you have a website that you're selling them on, or do you contact retailers and ask them if they'd like to buy a bundle, or do you just sit on them?
Well, we just sit on them. I mean, we do sell. We do have. We sell back issues, but they're mostly more recent stuff. Honestly, we haven't had the staff to go in and take inventory of all our 40 years of backlog that we have we have a big, huge storage unit that we just stuff. We have boxes and boxes of stuff in there. That's what we're doing the AP birthday bash. That's the main reason we're to do birthday bash is not only to celebrate it for it, but to get rid of all these comics. So what we're doing, our plan is to, we don't want the storage unit anymore because that's just money that's
right.
We consider being burning. Yeah. So
we
said we're going to unload the warehouse. We're going to take it to that convention that we have, and we're just going to give it away for free. So anybody can come in, who attends the show, take as much comics as you want. We don't care, just help yourself.
I would come in with a truck, Ben. I would load up the back of the van and just take everything you got, sir. You know what I mean?
I actually think that there's probably several people out there that's willing to actually pay you for it.
Yeah,
a good portion of it.
Here's the thing.
I know I would buy a lot.
Yeah, there's enough stores in Texas that you could probably reach out to the stores and say, here's a mass, mass liquidation.
We would love that, but honestly, we just feel like this is just our way to thank everyone who supported us for the last 40 years.
Sure, yeah.
And just we don't care what it is. You may find some real gems in there. We're just going to put it out there. We're not even probably going to even open the boxes. We're just going to put them out there.
Just take it by the box.
Yeah, just take them by the box.
What's so funny about this is when you get to San Antonio and you have to go through all the freeways to get to his warehouse, you're going to want the stuff for free because that is the worst freeway system in the world. What is going on with your city and the freeways?
I will come to San Antonio just to visit the filming locations of Cloak and Dagger, one of the greatest movies of the 80s.
Yeah, man.
So Ben, while we got you here, while I'm here, I just want to personally thank you for publishing Niobe. No matter how this goes, sir, right? No matter if Diamond goes belly up, no matter if they rebound, no matter if it's someone new, no matter if it is over at this point, sir, you put us on the shelf, and I appreciate that. And I just wanted to make sure I came on stream and told you that personally.
Wow, thank you, Larry. I appreciate that. But the fact of the matter is that it's through your hard work and creativity that made it possible, because we're just a facilitator, to be honest. It's creators like you and many others. It's your spark of imagination that drives the whole industry. If you hadn't created the comic, people would never have been able to read it. You took the chance of taking the idea that you had in your head, okay, and you took the chance of putting it out there instead of just keeping it locked in your head. You could have gone through your whole life with the Niobe idea and locked in your head and decided not to do anything with it. But you took a chance, and that's the beauty of comics, is that you can take ideas like that, put it out there, and see what people think of it.
Ben, there's a question for you in the chat. They want to know where they can find information on the Antarctic Press birthday 40th celebration bash.
Well, you can go to my Facebook page. There's a Facebook AP bash Facebook page. There's a YouTube channel I have that has an advertisement for it. So it's a one-day only thing. March 15th, Norris Conference Center. Admission is absolutely free. Nothing. We're not charging for a dime to attend, and we're not charging a dime to take as many comics as you want. We're gonna have panels, we're gonna have guests, we're gonna it's just gonna be a great one-day celebration, and we just want everyone to have fun. That's a really important thing. It's a thank you to all our readers and creators who supported us.
I want to answer Ryan's question in the chat, and Jesse and I were actually talking about this. So one of the things that is based on Diamond structure, the question is, so if Diamond goes under, will they auction off all those books in their warehouse? And the answer to start with is no. Diamond doesn't own those books. Those books are owned by the publishers contractually. Diamond actually charges storage to those publishers at the end of the year of what's not sold. But what's going to happen, in my opinion, and I think, Jesse, I think you agreed with me, right? They're basically going to say, hey, guys, how do you want your product back? And what do you, how do you want us to ship it to you? And
here's the shipping charges.
And guess what? They're going to charge to ship that product back to whoever it is. And
or you can just burn them.
That's what I would say.
That's what happens secondarily.
Yeah.
So if
they'll
the
burn them
publisher,
to us, the people that still have Diamond accounts, they'll be selling them to us for rock bottom prices.
right? But it first takes somebody like Tom to say, I don't care about that Aspen product.
Right.
It's still sitting on a shelf. I don't want it.
Yeah,
Then
we
it
could just simply
becomes-
say, yeah.
Yeah,
do
then
whatever
it
you want with
becomes part of this liquidation.
Right.
And at that point, I don't know that they're going to sell it to us, Emmett. I think they're going to
Sell it all
basically
to one person. Probably
it's going to be a liquidator,
hours.
and it's going to be somebody on the East Coast, or it's going to be Todd McDermott in Pittsburgh. It's going to be somebody who basically says, liquidator, I'll take all of this. And another guy's going to say, liquidator, I'll take all the pallet racking. Liquidator, I'll take all the high-lows.
Yeah.
And it's completely out of our hands at that point.
Yeah, it's just going to stock up your local Ollies. That's all that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at least the comics are getting out there.
Yeah,
So
I got
Ben,
an
you
Ollie
made
from
quite the post today, and I want to ask this question, and then I'll jump off because I want all these guys to pick your brain. But this is most important to the small creator. You made a post today, fairly lengthy post, stating that AP will stop publishing creator-owned IPs, or at least some of them, if not all of them. Can you elaborate on this? What does this mean for guys like me, Tom, Sam, Max, and whoever?
Well, the situation is that if Diamond is no longer going to be carrying, or no longer be distributing books, the situation is that everything we've solicited, so far to date, will still come out. We're gonna as long as Diamond will accept it. If they don't, then we'll just have to find some other way of, handling the solicitation. Of course, so the situation is that the creator, we can't take any more creator-owned IPs until we know what the lay of the land is going to be. If Diamond goes under, there's no point in us continuing printing creator-owned material, because creators need to make money, with their creation, and we no longer can offer that incentive anymore.
What about projects that are halfway through? Like, I'm under current contract with AP to provide 5 issues. I provided 3. I owe them 2 more. Is this contract now nil and void?
Well, probably, if Diamond is no longer around, because we don't have no distribution outlet anymore. So it would be kind of pointless for us to put out a book where there's no buyers for it.
So I assume then no penalty.
Right. No penalty. The thing about AP is that the creator owns 100% of what they own. They have every right to do whatever they want. We have no claim on any IP that isn't owned by Antarctic Press.
Oh, I'm just worried about myself. Like, hey, if everything stops now, I'm in breach of contract because I didn't provide the last 2 issues.
You're not going to be in breach. None of you, no creator will be in breach of contract. It'll just be whatever you decide. Now, if you want us to help you crowdfund it or something of that nature, then we can talk about that. But if you want to handle it on your own, that's fine too. We're not gonna.
I just think it sucks that we have 3 issues of a 5-issue miniseries and we don't have a way to get 4 and 5 to the shops.
I understand that, but unfortunately, this is circumstances beyond our control.
I've waited. You know what? I've waited 30 years for the final issue of On a Pale Horse, and I've actually but you laugh. I've actually talked to all the original creators, the original publisher, and said, I will personally pay for the 6th issue if I get the trade paperback rights to release the trade paperback. We were this close from making that happen.
Well, I mean, that could be another thing that could happen in the future, where individuals can contact creators and say, hey, I want to see Niobe #4. I'll pay you for that. That's what crowdfunding is all about. You support,
and we'll always have that, and we'll always have people come over to our Kickstarter. But I mean, we're talking about 450 people versus, say, the 3,000 we were previously selling to. So a lot of people who only know Niobe through the shops are halfway through a miniseries and don't know how to get the other 2 parts.
Well, if you want us, we can run an ad in our books that are coming out and say, hey, just check out Niobe.
I guess we'll have no choice but to do something like that.
I mean, the thing is that we want to help our creators any way we can. And we always
the problem, Niobe, is this is going to be a giant shit sandwich, and everybody on this dais, everybody in the chat is going to be taking a big giant bite.
There's creates an opportunity for somebody. This creates an opportunity for somebody or some other small business to step up and take the chance.
That brings me to my question. Has anybody on this panel seen anything or heard anything that, makes them think, okay, maybe there is somebody out there that's going to do it? Is there anything that you've heard or seen that makes you think that can be, expounded upon?
Like you said, the Diamond bankruptcy was only announced 3 weeks ago. If someone were to take advantage of that, they'd have to move pretty darn quick.
2 weeks yesterday, Ben. 2 weeks yesterday.
2 weeks yesterday. So if they just now hearing about it and see an opportunity, it takes time to sub any type of distribution system. And if someone were to take advantage of it and decide to do something, we probably won't hear about it for at least another month or 2. As far as the announcement is concerned.
Right. I think that sounds like it'd be too late.
The problem is, and I'm going to be the glass half empty guy here,
Tom,
as I usually
here for a second.
Yeah. The problem is it an opportunity? What does Diamond even have left that matters now that Marvel, DC, Image, a lot of the bigger publishers, even the bigger small guys, are over at Lunar, are over at Penguin? What is there for a potential buyer to come in and be like, hey, this is awesome. Let's get all these small press guys together and do something, when you have a situation where, again, glass half empty. I'm sorry, guys. There's publishers that are killing themselves. Scout's got problems. Aftershocks got problems. There's problems everywhere, even within just the small publisher.
Before this happened.
That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying. So if someone's coming in and going like, okay, here's Diamond, here's a business opportunity, here's the infrastructure, here's what it is, and here are the people that we have to work with. What's the attractive nature of that? That I think is the big problem. Unless they are some kind of investor that's coming in going, we have a way to reset this. We have a new way. We have a new infrastructure. We have a new thought process of what this is. We have digital. We have, somebody's going to come in with a complete revamp of the system for it to have any sort of real sense for anybody to buy in. And you're talking tens upon tens of millions of dollars to buy this infrastructure. And then deal with these retailers with really only small press guys, and then a few guys like Dynamite and so on obviously are still there. But
Dynamite's finding a new home. A lot of small press publishers have already jumped the ship before the ship has sunk.
You're proving my point. This is what I'm saying. It's there's nothing at Diamond right now other than just the base infrastructure that has existed for 30 or 40 years.
4 small publishers hanging on, and that's what's left with Diamond.
Here's what Tom doesn't understand, or maybe he does. There's no infrastructure there. I mean,
there is, but it's dwindling every minute, literally.
The computers
at this point
that they run it on are run on obsolete software.
Listen, I understand. I was there. I was working at Jesse's place one time when they fired every retail rep, so that when you called Diamond with a problem, there was literally no one to talk to. The company is a disaster, and it has been for decades. And that's my whole point. Again, is you can watch this company run itself off a cliff to this point where we are right now. So what I'm asking is what is the incentive for anyone other than perhaps Lunar to come in and be like, look, we'll just scoop it up and take it, which they don't clearly want to do. Or something large like Amazon has been talked about, but I don't see that happening either.
No.
What
Amazon
is the
doesn't want to
incentive
deal
for
with
anybody
floppies.
to maintain this system right now, just so these little guys that are very inconsistent, for the most part, to keep going?
There is no incentive.
There is 1,200 to 15. I think there's more than 1,500 customers because there's online sellers also. It's not just brick and mortars. And so then you have this customer base that has a value. Then they don't just sell comics. They sell a lot of stuff, supplies that we use that we can get through. Some of us can't get through other people. And then also toys and other items, which we're all pivoting to. You know, Steve came up with the idea that he was going to do back issues, but then he didn't ever implement it. That would have been huge. Like to be able to one of my customers wants New Mutants 14. Boom, they have one.
Well,
I'll take it.
I mean, Emmett, could you imagine a TCG player for comic books?
Oh, yeah. Jesus Christ. Well, that's what they were sort of going towards with Overstreet Access.
Right.
Because they would put all of your books, if you were a retailer, all of your books, if you put them in the inventory, were going to be online. Somebody could see that you have it and could contact you through their locator and buy the books from you.
You're saying exactly why this doesn't work, because for decades there have always been the next idea, and none of that shit ever gets implemented to any effective valuation. It's always, hey, we got this idea. Oh, yeah, well, never mind. We got this idea. Yeah, well, never mind. Diamond has constantly had ideas, but nothing that they do has
Overstreet Access is up and running. They just haven't. The problem is they haven't marketed it correctly.
They haven't. This is the point. This is what I'm saying. They haven't. They still haven't. They never have. As a distributor, especially when they were truly like the monopoly that they were. That was the moment that those guys needed to be marketing the entire industry to the world. That was their job.
Charging us $6 a week to be on.
It's not Marvel's job. It's not DC's job. It's not my job. It's not a retailer's job. It should be their job to be like, look,
well, I think
we have
it
this
is Marvel
shit.
and DC's job to market comics.
No, it's not. It's not. And listen, do you think that the local market is marketing Pepsi? No, Pepsi markets itself and sends them there. So within the context of like Marvel used to do things, they used to have like, here's a G.I. Joe commercial and go get Marvel Comics. Like that's great. But it doesn't, we are in existence now, especially with all the small press guys, that the distributor has access to all of that stuff. And they have the biggest opportunity to say, Dynamite has Darkwing Duck, and Boom has Planet of the Apes, and these guys have this and these guys have this. But all they did was sit there and go, you know what? Why don't you guys pay us a little more, and then we'll do some co-op ads. Pay us a little more. Hey, publishers, we're not going to give you a great space in the book unless you pay us $2,000 for a space in the book. Otherwise, you get your little paragraph that's buried in a 400-page novel. Like they had no thought process of how to take themselves forward.
And then they immediately went to the publishers and said, all right, we've got 1,000 captive retailers. How much will you pay us to get on stage or have a small group discussion with them? 5,000, 10,000, 20,000? And that's not the way you build an industry, soaking everyone on both ends.
Sorry about that, you guys. We had a little internet.
There is no replacement. Tom, what happens? And we all just go to crowdfunding and end a story?
Well, if Diamond does just go poof, it's going to take most of those players with them. I'm sure Lunar, if they don't have like Zenoscope and Aspen and whoever else is left as far as the larger guys, I'm sure Lunar would be like, well, those guys have some value, but these other guys, we don't care. Or Penguin, one or the other. One or the other. But
Tom's 100% right.
Yeah, no, and here's the other thing. A lot of these publishers, these small publishers that are struggling now, like let's just use Scout as an example. A lot of them aren't even really like AP. Like AP houses Ben's stuff that's been around for like 40 years. Stuff like Scout is just a bunch of creators being like, Here's my stuff. So all of those creators can still take their stuff and go crowdfund it.
So
and
that's my
sell
fear,
it however
is
they
that all
want
of
to
a
do it.
sudden we're going to get an influx. Like this year is going to probably be the most heaviest year we've ever seen on Kickstarter.
No, it won't be
Every
this year
small
because
publisher is
that's
gonna
too
come
early,
on
but it
over.
will be next year if it happens. Yes.
Well, and
I
let me
think
just
it
go
will.
back, because I mean, Ben's right here. Ben, 1985. You released, what was the first comic book released by Antarctic Press?
Magazine #1.
Magazine #1. How
Mhm.
many black and white comics were booming at that time from different publishers?
Oh, maybe 100, I would say.
Yeah. And what happened over the next 5 years was the black and white crash, the first kind of mini crash.
Oh, thousands.
Yeah. I mean, they disappeared. That was during that. And then by 95 or 96, when Diamond got the exclusivity on everything, even more of those little guys crashed because they didn't survive the collapse of Capital and the collapse of Friendly Franks and all of that. These things happen, but you have to insulate yourself from these things happening. And Niobe, I feel for you. I've seen you in the chat for 2 straight weeks now, and I know you're.
Oh yeah, it sucks.
No, it does. But 2 weeks of bitching about it isn't getting out there going, guys, we need to get a groundswell for Niobe 4. I don't know if Ben's going to be able to publish it. I don't know if Diamond's going to be around here, but complaining that it's going to happen, it might happen, isn't preparing for when it does happen.
You don't think I'm not prepared?
Well, I don't. It doesn't sound.
I've
like
been
you
doing
are.
Kickstarter for 11 years.
No, I understand, but right now you're like.
I'm voicing my concerns for the small press publisher for
I
small
absolutely
creators,
understand
because I feel like collectors don't give a shit, and I'm trying to make them care.
Oh, they don't care. Let me be very clear about that. They don't care.
Tom, tell us about it. Tell us about it, Tom.
I don't think Larry is. I mean, I don't think Larry's unprepared. I just think that he is, taken aback by what's happening right now. All of us are.
Yeah.
We did not expect Diamond to suddenly declare bankruptcy out of the blue. Now we knew there was warning signs when Diamond was late on their payments, but we thought, well, maybe they're just going through a rough patch, But the thing is that we are caught up in a, it's like, the Japanese attacking Pearl Harbor. Okay, it was sudden and unexpected. Okay, and now we're in the middle of a huge battle. Okay, and we're not gonna know the results of it until after it's over. Now, I think Larry is expressing his frustration that he wants to get his book out on comic stores, and I don't blame him. And he wants to tell his story. He wants his fans, he wants his readers to enjoy the story he has that was meant for them to read. And with Diamond gone, he no longer has that opportunity, and AP can't continue operating if Diamond is not. Operating the same way if Diamond is no longer there.
And
now,
there's a ton of small press creators who are in that same situation like Larry is.
Exactly, we're all in the same boat, and it's quickly sinking. What are we going to do to save it? Now, I understand Tom. I understand Tom's statement about who's going to carry the ball, and he has every right to believe that no one's going to bother. But see, I don't believe that. Okay, somebody's going to come up because why? Because somebody's going to love comics. Okay, he may not start off as big as Diamond, but he sees an opportunity with small press publishers. Okay, he doesn't have to start off big. Okay, he just starts off with maybe a handful of small publishers that do really good stuff, and he starts sending them. He'll put out a little flyer of all this stuff and send them to retailers. Okay, and the retailers can look and say, "That looks good. Maybe I'll order 5 copies. Discount's good." And he ships his books, and they come pristine mint. The thing about it is that we do comics because we love comics. Okay, there are people out there who don't care about comics. All they're in is for the money. Those people eventually get shaken out. The thing about Lunar and Penguin, yes, they're big companies. They don't care about comics. They don't give a shit about comics. Let's face it. Okay, they're only doing it, for either prestigious or they think they can get something out of it. Okay, and the thing about it is that eventually what's going to happen, and this is my prediction, I don't know if it's going to come true or not, but Eventually, what's going to happen is that the minute they start losing money on comics, going to drop it like a hotcake. Okay, they won't care anymore. So the thing about it is that somebody's going to care who loves comics and says, "Hey, somebody's going to come up. I don't know who it's going to be. I don't know when."
I have a worst case scenario for you, Ben.
What's the worst case?
Right
the worst
now,
case scenario is we all go to business.
No. I think there's a worst case scenario, which is Diamond collapses. All of the small publishers take a giant pause while they regroup, wait for this Hail Mary pass from some fourth party. And somebody over at Marvel calls somebody over at DC and says, "Hey, do we want to keep doing this?"
Superman, Wonder Woman. The people know those characters. They don't give a rat's ass about DC. Okay, they never have. Okay, They only keep it around.
So it really would not be shocking to me if they were just suddenly one day like, "Look, guys, we don't want to do this ourselves anymore, but we're happy to take your money if IDW or Dynamite or whatever wants to publish Spider-Man. We'll take your money."
Need a home to distribute through.
Well, of course, but it would go to a larger company like a Dynamite, which
Dynamite's still currently with Diamond.
can get into another place. Because if someone like Lunar, think about Dynamite. Dynamite has crap loads of IP. They're a viable, active publisher right now. So if they were to be like, "Look, Dynamite's gone, or Diamond's gone, Lunar help us out, Penguin help us out," whoever, they're going to be okay. They're going to be able to be like swept in. It's not going to be like I can go knock on Lunar's door and be like, They're going to be like, "No, we don't want you." But anybody that's coming in saying, "You have Spider-Man now, you have Darkwing Duck, you have Thundercats, you make sense to us."
Well, and I think those lines have already started. Those webs have already started forming.
Yeah.
Dynamite has a great relationship with Warner Brothers.
Yes.
Warner Brothers owns DC.
Yes.
IDW has been allowed to do Spider-Man and Marvel and Star Wars for several years now.
Yep.
I think those webs are already there, and all it takes is somebody at Disney to go close the Marvel offices. We are gonna we're gonna let this little company IDW publish however many comics they want and just pay us a percentage fee.
Yeah,
and the same thing's going to happen at Warner Brothers.
Yeah, think about all the ducks that Disney has. They've been licensing the ducks for decades upon decades. When they bought Marvel, they didn't consolidate and publish the ducks on their own. They just kept making that licensing money.
Yep. Yeah. So, and that's honestly what I think is the worst case, because guess what? At that point, 50 Marvel titles a month goes to 10 IDW Marvel titles a month, and 50 DC titles, which are mostly Batman titles, a month goes to 10 Dynamite
Batman titles a month,
DC titles, and 1,200 comic book stores cannot exist on 50 new books a month. I mean, Emmett, did you survive? I mean, Emmett, I know you're.
Dude, I'm not even a comic book shop anymore. I bring in new comics. I support all the small publishers. I try to buy their books through Diamond. I warehouse new books. I have less than 50 subscribers. I sell less than 50 new books a week, and I sell probably 1,000 comics a week.
Well, let's be honest. People don't
950 of them are all back issues.
Look at it this way here. I mean, if I were a distributor, okay, if I decided, hey, I want to start my own distribution company. Okay, Marvel and DC are out because they are exclusive to, so, what's left? You have small publishers, you have medium-sized publishers, you have manga. Okay, so manga is one of those things that have done exceedingly well in the bookstore market. Why is that? Why is manga doing so well in the bookstore, but they don't do so well in comic book stores? Okay, most comic book stores, I mean, they do carry manga, but definitely not to the same extent as the bookstore.
Well, that's changed. My shop was boasting that they got a bunch of new manga in today in like 3 or 4
but
Facebook
that's
posts.
The exceptions, not the rule.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, I think that's pretty much the rule now. I think that young kids think comic books are old and archaic. They're like the 8-tracks that Dad has. Manga is hip and cool, okay, and that's what they want. Until you're able to do that.
But if you don't know the manga, you can't buy it.
It's more than just.
You really have to know manga to buy it, because
here's what I would.
People come in and I had a wall full of manga. I had like 1,000 manga books, and kids would come in and they look through them and go, and there's nothing I want.
Yeah, sure.
listen,
Involves a little research.
listen to my idea.
More than
Okay,
a
so
little research.
if I
You
were
know what,
distributor-
Larry? I'm sorry. You know what? Open your own store, distribute your own comic.
Well, tell me, how well are new comics selling for you?
I sell 0 new comics. That's
Correct.
why I have an
And that's
entire
what we're
business
talking about.
model
That's the
based on
subject
it.
here is
Will you
new
let me
comics.
talk?
well, let me.
Well, dude, I've been trying to talk the whole stream, and you keep over talking me, man.
Okay, I let's try to see what we can do about distribution. Okay, so if I were a distributor, this is what I would do. Okay, this is just me. Okay, I would say I would contact all the comic book store retailers I could and say, look, if you carry our books, it'll be returnable. Okay, if you don't, then I would make a deal with the small publisher, next Bone, the next Usagi Yojimbo, or whatever is going to, because, you know, if you make it less risky, provide good service, okay, I think a lot of comic retailers may say, hey, I'd be willing to take a chance on that, you know, if I don't have as much risk. Now, if a book sells well, okay, then there are not going to be that many returns. But if the book flops, that, you know, then that small publisher is going to end up with a lot of returns.
And
You know,
Ben,
and that's the chance they would take. Now, that's risky on our part, and I'm not saying that that's the ideal model, but that could be something that might encourage more retailers to take chances on smaller publishers.
but
Right.
Ben, can I just say something though?
Sure.
Much like people say about me, you have the resources of 40 years of very successful publishing to be able to come up with that. I honestly do not think, and much like Tom was saying, that half of the publishers in the back of that Diamond catalog can survive without that monthly check from Diamond.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying. I mean, that's unfortunately the market. Okay,
Yeah.
if you don't have, it's just like opening a restaurant. Things that as publishers, as for us, is that what market is not being served, and that's where we try to aim our thing. And now, so you have to give people a reason to go to comic book stores, and one of the big things is content. You know, it's just like a movie theater. You know, if you have crap movies, no one's going to watch them. But if you have great movies, you're going to make, you know, you're going to do well. You know, it's just the same with comic books. You got to have good comics. You know, and so there's a balance between content and business. You know, that's what we're trying to strive to achieve. You know, as far as at least as far as Antarctic Press is concerned. You know, now I'll be lying to you if I wasn't, you know, if this wasn't keeping me up at night. You know, is that what we're going to do now? You know, like Larry said, there are other venues that we can tackle. There's crowdfunding, of course. There's direct market, of course. But, you know, we prefer, you know, the direct distributor model because that's just, for us, the easiest way for us to reach as big a crowd, you know. And I think that if we can start producing content people want to read again, then that they'll come to the comic book store again. You know,
Well,
but that's just my opinion.
No, and I think you have the optimism of somebody who has, in my opinion, survived three of the most crucial crashes our industry has had to throw at you. And 40 years later, that's how strong you are, is you're still optimistic with this much darkness. I've lost that pessimism. I've seen the darkness and the light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm the half empty. I'm actually a quarter or 3/4 empty. Tom's at half empty.
Well, you know, the thing is,
and you're
comics.
3/4 full, brother, and I love it.
I love comics. I've always loved comics. I love creators. Okay, you know, when people come to me at conventions and show me their portfolio, I try to encourage them. You know, I tell them if I don't think they're quite there, I try to encourage them to keep at it. You know, I try to tell people, you have great ideas, don't keep it locked up in your head. Share it with the world. You know, and that's the important. That's, to me, that's important. And as far as comics are concerned, I mean, the AP is concerned. Look, if AP were to go out of business tomorrow, I'd find some other line of work. You know, because, you know, as long as I'm alive, I'm healthy, and, you know, I can do other things. You know, I'll be able to survive. Now, you know, I would be saddened, you know, that we're no longer publishing comics anymore. But I could still do what Larry does. I can crowdfund my own stuff. I could, find other ways to make money. There's lots of ways. I could be a picker. I go to flea markets, buy stuff and resell online, and so it's to me, it's not the end of the world. Okay. But
my glass half empty isn't like, I don't believe that comics are going away.
Right.
I'm just talking about the state of the actual LCS industry, the retail industry. This is where we have a big problem. But from a creator standpoint, there are more doors open for creators right now than maybe there's ever been. Yep. Everybody will say, well, it's such a crowded market. Well, you're going up against 40 Batman books on the rack every week too. I mean, it's everywhere is crowded. It's just a matter of you finding a way to get your voice in your project and your whatever it is.
This is what I have
above the noise.
I have the answer to that. Okay, so, well, not the answer, but this is what I feel. This is my philosophy. Okay, so let's say you sell 1,000 copies of your comic, which is good, right? I mean, nobody would doubt that that's not a bad a print run, so to speak. So how many people are on this planet? 4 billion people. That means there's 3,999,000 people who've not read your comic.
Yeah.
Okay, so to me, it's an unlimited marketplace if you have the right product. It's just a matter of letting people be aware. I'm still reprinting stuff that I did 40 years ago. People still buy it because somewhere out there's a guy who's never read it.
Yep.
Okay, who wants to discover it. Okay, who wants to experience the same thing that an original reader read back in 1980. Why do you think Marvel and DC keep their stuff that's 50 years old in print?
Yeah,
because there's somebody out there who's new to it, who's never read it. Okay.
Right. Keep it,
and the lawyers make them do it to keep the IP alive.
Yeah.
That's the way they get back issue money, because they don't get back issue money when people are selling Hulk 181, but they can sell Hulk 181 in a trade and make money all the time.
Right.
Yeah, and you think about it, if Marvel and DC really wanted to, they have 100 years worth of stuff. They just go back to year one, print it,
start again.
Sell it for $1.
Don't give them any ideas, Ben. Don't give them any ideas.
So keep in mind, when someone walks into a comic book store or a bookstore, whatever, for the first time, who's never collected comics, everything is new. They don't know the difference between a back issue and a new issue rack. So it's your job to find out what they like and direct them going forward. So I just want to get that point.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. Like with me, with Critter, right? Antarctic Press now is publishing Critter. This is the third printing of this book. I published it myself. Aspen published it for 3 years, and now Ben and Antarctic Press are publishing this same book, exactly identical, the same book, for a third time over 15 years. So basically every 5 years we send it out again.
Yeah.
And it's selling well, and it's getting people who believe that it's just a brand new book. It's on the rack, and they're like, oh, this is a new thing, I'm buying it. And then they come to Comic-Cons and they see me with like Critter 23, and they're like, huh? What's going on? And I tell them the story, like, well, yeah, we've been doing this for a long time.
Right.
So everything you do is evergreen if you know how to keep the cycle going.
Right. That's right. Once you produce something, it's yours forever.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You can reprint it 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and there's always going to be somebody new who's never experienced it before.
Yeah, but again, I want to go back to one of the problems that I think is the biggest, and I keep hitting this, like it's a dead horse. I get it, but we have 2 creators on the panel.
No creators, you don't know, and Diamond was like, you know what, we're going to give you that opportunity, and that was Penny for Your Soul 15 years ago. And
I did the same thing, and Diamond said, "Go away, Dennis."
Well, that's the correct answer, though. So what was cool was when we got our orders initially, it was like 3,500 copies or something. I don't know. And I was kind of bummed. I was like, well, I was hoping we'd hit that 5,000 mark. And my rep at the time, this is the thing, I've never had a problem with Diamond as them helping me. They were like, look, nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows who your company is. Nobody's seen this book. Your creator's nothing. And, you outsold X, Y, and Z publishers. I'm not saying who they were, but they literally pointed out, like, you outsold these publishers with your first book. That's something to build on. And I was like, oh, wow, that was really a great thing that they did to kind of like give me that pop as a creator, to be like, oh yeah, that is pretty cool. And then, we're off to the races, and 15 years later.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like that old Rocky saying, it's not how many times you get hit.
Yeah. Get up, Rock. Chase the chicken.
Keep on going, man.
You're for Sam.
as with the whole taste of the distribution thing, I've been selling directly to shops since the pandemic started. When pencils went down, we were able to put money into other projects to get those jump started a little bit. And then when I caught COVID last year, it paid for my medication. So I mean, hey, I'm still here, right? But the one of the things I think a lot of people aren't talking about is that when you're talking about these wonderful products that we make and sell, comics, we are dependent upon large numbers of sales to keep the stores afloat. They have to churn those books. They have to be good enough to get people in and to make that money, and they have to have the margins to make that happen. One of the things as a creator and publisher that I think not a lot of people consider is that with less than 2,000 shops operating in the United States, it is incredibly difficult to just even break even on your production costs as a creator, because you're talking, for Tibby issue 2 is going to be $10,000 in production costs, not counting printing. And that's just from art, covers, and the stuff we're doing with it. And then printing costs is going to be another 6 or 7 or whatever it is, depending on the volume. But if you come out and you're looking, well, we're going to do 2,000 units sold and we're going to make $1,000, you're out of your mind if you're trying to support that product at that. So you have to find other markets. I have Tibby on spinner racks in Oregon through comics mainstream distribution with Adam Watson. I've known Adam for 7 years. We've had a great working relationship. We're in one of the largest tattoo parlors in Cincinnati. And then I'm trying desperately to get into some liquor stores and other business chains that fit the model for the titles in question. So, for example, Adam got us into Bigfoot Buds in Malala, Washington, which is a marijuana dispensary. And so we've been selling Tibby in marijuana dispensaries where we can. Some states you can't have other products in there.
Right.
But
So let me just
What about
say,
porn
you're
shops?
You're smart, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
This is the way publishers.
They never go out of business.
This is the way publishers like yourself survived in the 60s and 70s. They were called the comics scene with an X.
Mm-hmm.
They're the underground comics. They were put through all of the head shops, all of the tobacco pipe industry,
right?
And they survived until they became something and came out on the other side as legitimate comics that showed up on Dave Letterman and Conan O'Brien. That's a business model that we need to get back to.
And there's a concern, and I think it's a very valid one, of the diminishing presence of the physical store locations. And so we have to adopt to digital product formats. We have to adopt to, direct to consumer. And as a creator and as a publisher, we have to be able to grab the money. I can't draw anything. So I hire the best artists I can. I pay them the most money I can to produce the highest quality product I can get. And then it's my job as the creator, the publisher, to get out there and make those sales happen so we can make the business successful. And crowdfunding is a huge part of that. I learn a lot from Tom. I learn a lot from Larry. I'm learning a lot from Ben. And I've been doing this since 2017. And whether it's the role-playing games we make or the comic books we make or the art prints we sell, getting those products out and getting them into other locations, very, very small margin on that. But when I'm, shipping like a bundle to Cosmic Cape Comics over in West Virginia, and they take, 30 comics and, 20 art prints because the art prints are selling, so long as I'm having a net profit on that shipment of, $5 to $10, I'm happy with that because I'm only paying me. But when you've got someone like a distributor like Diamond, those margins start to compress. Because when I ship something to you and you're paying $2 or $2.50 for a book, and then you're reselling it at $5, you're working to double the money on that shelf space. That's really simple math. But when you've got people in the middle and they've got employees and they've got materials, that margin starts to compress. And so they need a much larger base. And I think where Diamond's problem was, and Ben has said this before, a lot of us have said this before, is they tried to stick just to the comic shop and did not branch actively into other locations. You want to know who Diamond having problems doesn't affect? Archie Comics. Archie Comics isn't going to give a damn about this because they're shipping directly to every grocery store in North America, right?
And drugstore.
And drugstores. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
And you'll also find them actually in some of the kids stores too. From what's it called? I forget what it's called. We got one in Lexington, but and you'll see their stuff. A shelf up above Dogman, and that's great. And getting that in and having that and being able to get that product out and makes that volume possible. Where I would say for distribution, guys, we need to buckle up, and for like the next 5-6 years, it's going to be really messy. We have an inflationary impact. We have a labor issue in the United States, which is about to get seriously aggravated. We have supply issues on ink that's a contributing factor to driving printing costs. We have a supply issue on paper products that's also driving that. And then we have shipping costs escalating, which are also hitting every one of us at every single level whenever product moves. And we can say, hey, well, we want to get comics back to like $2, and there are ways to do that, but you have to vertically integrate a lot of those processes. And what that requires that a lot of us indies don't have is a lot of capital. If I had $35-40 million, I would not open a distribution company right now. I would wait until probably 2030. And what I'm waiting for is the robotics technology so that I only, instead of hiring 148 humans in the warehouse, I can hire 5. And I can staff the rest with, the robotics to actually move comics from point A to point B with no worries about injury, no worries about retirement benefits, no worries about health insurance or state employment tax for those autonomous, semi-autonomous things. That will help control costs. But again, 5-6 years from now. In the meantime, I don't blame Penguin for being cautious because every new publisher they bring in is going to tax their available labor. And they have to prioritize what they're making money on. And we know what they're making money on. And Lunar the same way. Them taking in Image was a task for them. That was one thing that when I tried to reach out to them, that was one thing they were very transparent about, is getting Image onboarding was proving to be a pretty big task. I imagine Boom was not as hard. But where their staffing is finite and their facilities are what they are, moving product around to your shops is labor intensive. You need to optimize it, and you can't really be very open to risks on margins that are so razor thin. I think we're going to see a lot more indie guys who have been traditionally through Diamond. They're going to be more profoundly affected than I am. Antarctic Press and Ben were great to put Tibby issue 1 out, and I've said publicly before, and I'll say it again. I am more than willing to make sure that we go all the way through Tibby issue 4, and then we'll decide. If AP still wants it, great, and if they don't, I'll still, I'm looking forward to hanging out with Ben in March, and we'll talk then. But the folks who are waiting for their money are going to be waiting for a while. And the folks that they are, waiting to pay are going to be waiting longer. And the people who have overhead that isn't going to wait, that have office space, which, some people do, who have warehouse space, who have those licensing fees to keep their forklift operation in compliance so that they can unload them off the truck and put them on the racks. All those costs add up every hour. And every hour you're not getting paid, that is going to hurt your capital flow. And if Diamond wants to fix it, one of the first things they're going to have to do is get everyone paid as quickly as possible. Because with razor thin margins, the one thing you cannot have to maintain your business is you cannot have a dearth of product. You have to have as much product to move as possible. Or even if the margins were higher, if you don't have the product to sell, you don't get any money. There is a lot to this that's going to happen. And while we may see in the short term Diamond fold up, we may see them come back and be able to restructure. I think as creators, as publishers, we have got to recognize that one of the underlying facts is we've got to make sure that we're getting books into retailers, at comic shops, and other locations. And my recommendation, and this is just my suggestion, is use different covers for different industries for different locations. For example, I've been trying to get into Liquor Barn. Liquor Barn only has 24 locations. Me putting out a separate cover for that, that's probably not the best economic sense. But if I can put 20 or 30 books into each, I can make it work, even if it's only going to net me a couple $100 at the end. The key thing is, though, is I'm going to earn other customers, and I can make a couple $100 off them every time that I need to refresh stuff. And
well, also, can I just say, it's
Certainly.
really smart too, because you're building an audience, and the people who love your book at one location are going to patronize those other.
And
So
same with Tom.
we've had these talks ad nauseum.
Ad nauseum. Yep. We've had them in big voices and low voices. That's for sure. Larry's a friend. I have a lot of respect for his skills as a writer. He's incredibly passionate about comics, and he has a big voice to back that passion up. I'm a big admirer of Tom Hutchinson. He has repeatedly, the entire time I've known him, showed an absolute dedication to his craft, attention to the details of his business. One thing I will tell you is that I have only ever seen Larry's quality improve, and Tom has always been such a high quality producer anyway. I've never seen it waver. Whether it's his National Goth Day publications or Critter or what have you, he still holds everything to the highest standard. And I think a lot of companies are not doing that. And I think could be a contributing factor to why their sales aren't improving. I owned a shop for a little while in 1999, 2000, sold it when right before I divorced my wife at the time. And I started that shop because I wanted to build some money and build something for the family. And I wanted to learn the comic book industry because I'll mention this, there will be people who are owning small press publishing, and there are going to be some creators. So I don't blame them.
We lost some huge talent in the 90s crash to advertising and video game people. Yeah. I mean, a bunch of big names just
trying to get into marketing and advertising with AI art being used so much to produce stuff on the cheap. That's going to be a tough sell. It's going to be a very difficult time to be a creator as an artist if you are not, creating your own IP. And if you are creating your own IP, then it will succeed as hard as you make it succeed. But also people got to realize if something just isn't working, if your story about the three-headed, dog who likes to poop on your neighbor's yard and causes you a problem isn't popular, then, maybe you should start telling a story about Aphrodite reincarnated in modern Japan and trying to seduce the emperor to become there or something like that.
Can I ask a question real quick though?
Yeah.
That's a perfect point. Ben and Tom, you've been publishing probably the longest, 15 and 40 years. Tell us the worst book you ever published that you just said, fuck it, I have to walk away from this.
Jeez.
I never walked away from anything.
If I commit to a book, I mean,
we definitely had a book that was our lowest seller ever, and it was the book that we tried to make for kids, our sort of animation book. We also kind of that was right at the point where we were moving over to Aspen too, so the whole thing was just a big cluster of problems with artists and then switching publishers. But everything that we've said we're doing through X amount of time, we have completed all of it.
Yeah, the only
something about young kids though, from a retailer standpoint, what I've seen is that when they come in and look at kids books, and some of the independents have made some really great kids books, but the kids want to see something they already know.
Yes. That's why we had that problem. And I was like, I saw that immediately. Yeah.
Sonic sells off the stands. It doesn't matter how good the book, a lot of the book is not even good, but it doesn't matter. They know Sonic. They gravitate to it.
Yeah. Built-in audience.
And I've seen a lot of independents. Look, Scout made that whole Scoot, and they made some really good independent kids books, and I couldn't sell them.
Nope.
I gave them away, but
see, I think for us, it was made. I shouldn't say it was a kid's book. It's a for everybody book, and so our thought process was like, okay, parents might buy this and it's fine for the kids. They can hand it down, and then maybe at some point the kid would be like, "Oh, comics! Like this is cool. Like what else? What else
The
is there?"
thing is that kids don't go to comic stores anymore. I mean, it used to be when I was a kid, I went to the comic store because, there was one nearby.
Mhm.
But
They carry Pokemon. They do.
But the thing about it is that you got to put comics where kids gravitate, the grocery stores, drugstores, because that's where their parents usually go, and they go every week. I don't know if a single family doesn't go to the grocery store at least once a week to, buy groceries and supplies or whatever, and that's, to me, it's all about the accessibility, the price and accessibility. The content, of course, is also very important. But if you can have the greatest kids comic in the world, but if no kid knows about it, you're not going to sell it. It has to be at a place that's accessible, and it has to be a price that's affordable. It has to be an impulse buy for parents, to keep their kid busy. It's like, oh, it's only like $3. Go ahead and, if a kid comes up to his mom with a comic and the comic looks, the first thing that the parent looks at is the price, and then they look at the cover. Okay. But usually it's the price, it's like, how much does this thing cost? If it's like $2 or $3, and to keep the kid quiet and occupied, and hey, he's reading, so that might be something they be like Tom said, Sam said about the Archie comics. Yes, Archie comics has defied, it's an evergreen kind of product because Archie made the smart decision not to do continuity as part of their storytelling, and they can reprint stories from 50 or 60 years ago and no one's going to know the difference.
The reason why Archie does so well is their floppies are in comic book shops, but when you go to the grocery store, you don't see floppies. Archie publishes in digest.
Right. See, that's another adaptation we may have to consider.
Well, didn't Scout just decide? Was it Scout that just decided to stop selling floppies and they're just going to start selling in digest form?
That's a smart move.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's something.
Bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it works out for him.
Yeah, it's not going to work out. It's not going to work out. That's the wrong direction. Now, again, the digest work, especially for Archie, because it's perfect for kids. Kids have small hands. They're opening it. They're getting a kid environment. For the most part, Archie is, whether it's for kids or not is a different story, but we understand what we're talking about. But if you're coming in and just taking random book off the shelf and being like, now it's a digest, like that's not the same.
No, the content has to be very important.
Right.
Yeah. Like if someone would buy I don't know who has the Harvey library, but that's decades worth of material.
Yeah. That would work.
I mean, I could take Richie Rich by itself, and put it in a digest format, and I think it would sell just as well as Archie, to be honest.
Casper. Actually, I think Casper, Wendy, and Hot Stuff would sell even more than Richie Rich.
Yeah,
now.
Hot Stuff. I get people asking for Hot Stuff all the time.
Well, I go to the casino, and the hot Stuff has casino machines.
I mean, if I had money, I would. I don't know who owns the Harvey library, but that's a gold mine sitting right there.
Well, I just wanted to say so. We've talked a lot about the manga and the comic scene, and I just want to give you my 2 cents, and it's more directed at Larry, what he said earlier this show. I had manga right there across from my comics, right next to my trade paperbacks. It did not sell. I moved manga into my video game and record store, and I sell it so much now. People don't go to a comic store. They want to go to a store that feels like it's catering just to manga. And when you talk about kids, I get kids all the time for the manga. I get a lot of kids over there for my cheap comics. I get mostly adults for the comics. But the manga section in the second store is a kid magnet.
Do you have the machines that drop out the little chibis and stuff?
Yeah,
like
I got a Gashapon machine.
Yeah.
Now, I'll tell you guys one thing I've been looking for a couple of years now is a vending machine for comics. because
difficult.
I've been trying to. I found some in Japan, but
Yeah, they're only in Japan. Yeah.
But the problem is that the unit that I actually want isn't compatible with U.S. currency, and it's on. And here's the other thing too: the electrical wattage is different, so it would need an entire rewire to get down to the correct current, and basically need to be rebuilt. So, I talked to some people in Pittsburgh who build custom vending machines. Their prices are understandably pretty damn high, but I think that's something to. Every gimmick that you have to put stuff in people's hands, because like if you go to any of the schools here in Kentucky, they have a book vending machine, right? In the
grocery stores have Pokemon vending machines now.
Yeah, and that kind of opportunity where people can just stop and shop and grab it and go, that convenience where they don't even have to go through lines, I think is something that people should really be looking more into. I'm going to keep looking until I find a machine that will actually work for me. But wish me luck, I tell you.
But how much would you charge for these vending comics? Do you see kids like popping in a $5 bill to get a comic book out of that?
I mean, it's going to depend on the production. And you know as well as I do that the price we can charge is based on what our cost per unit is.
Well, the price we can charge is based on how much it costs us for printing and shipping, and then a couple extra dollars for profit.
Well,
no, I don't know. But here's the thing, though, guys. I'm sorry, you're on a roll, but I want to pause you. Peter Cimetti, I forget what his comic publisher, but he prints on newsprint.
Alterna.
Yeah. Alterna. Yeah. He prints on newsprint and makes a $1.50 comic. Is that
not anymore because he can't find a newsprint printer anymore. He had to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And his comic books actually have risen in price, you know.
Okay, but the point is he was until
he had to pull out of sheets. He was in sheets and he had to pull out because they were returning everything.
Yeah.
Even more books. They were returning more books than they got.
Mm.
Well, and using paper like that on modern printing or modern coloring styles, it would look like shit. So you have to have a specific art style and coloring dynamic to print on that kind of paper.
No, I just wanted to throw that out there because I honestly think that the paper quality means the cost goes up as well.
Well,
so I'm not in the publishing business. That's just my thoughts. Is there might be a cheap way to do a cheap introductory level.
There really isn't. Like I said, there is cheaper paper that you can use, but the cheaper paper that you go, the more the colors become muddy because of
they're putting it out for $2.
Yeah, but that's work they've already paid for.
Yeah, that's
right?
just stuff. Yeah, they're not making new art. They're just like, who cares? Let's just put comics into the general marketplace. Yeah. Whereas with us, we're trying to present a good product to the market. And, so that's the difference. Like for them, they're just like, just send it out because no one will know the difference.
Dennis,
yeah, but it shows that you can print a comic and sell it for $2
if you have enough,
but
enough sales to warrant that. Right?
Yeah,
like
that's
if you're only
printing
printing 3,000 comics, you're not going to be out there selling them for $1.25.
So we have no idea how many of those dollar comics they sent out to Dollar Tree.
Right. We have a good idea. Yeah. We actually have a good idea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they have 15,000 stores worldwide, or not worldwide, but in the United States. And every store got it, and they got 5 copies per title. I believe there was 50 titles, but that was it. You could not get 1 copy after the second day. Every store sold out. So the theory is, okay, if you put in that many books, is this just a
when you upload it, it'll be a clean episode for everybody who watches it afterwards.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so based on the success of Dollar Tree,
it's back.
Marvel could potentially go into a Dollar General.
Hopefully.
Do the same thing, right? Exactly. So
volume, what is that, 53 cents a book, Ben? Does that sound right?
Yeah, but you got to remember, DC is going to put this in with all of their other print runs that are running at the same time.
Right.
They're printing millions of units at the same time.
Right. They're going to get a much better economy of scale. But for folks like you and me and Larry and Ben, that's a hell of a lot of money for just one title. Now stretch that out by 50, and you're looking at $1.1 million.
So it's actually 38 titles because I'm looking at the list.
Is it 30? Okay, thanks.
38.
So we multiply it by 38 rather, and then we're what is that? $740,000, something like that. Am I right? I'm guessing because it's late.
And
here.
the books are all number ones too. They're all reprints of mostly New 52 and some rebirth.
So
You actually got one.
Yeah.
Damn it.
You can get
Polybag sealed, right? And then they do some DC advertisement on the back. So
yeah, the ads are different and the stories are all the same. So it's very cheap for them to reproduce work that's already been done and mass produce it. You know,
Yep.
And they don't have to pay the writer. They don't have to pay the artist.
That's right.
And better yet, since they put all new in-house advertising in it, they can put it over in the marketing budget.
Yep.
And say that this is an advertisement, and all they have to do is get 60 cents a piece, back, and that's a write-off for marketing.
right.
So Jesse, did you just open that?
Yeah, I just opened it. So there's no ads
No ads.
inside it except for the inner page and then the back page.
And what are those ads for specifically?
The back page is for DCUniverseInfinite.com. And the first page is for heroicdeals.com. So they probably paid for the whole book itself by putting that.
Yeah, they paid for that all by themselves. So, and we now have another missed opportunity because there's nothing in that book to tell a potential comic book buyer, hey, go to a comic book store and you can
have
get
no
more of this
obligation
stuff.
to do that for this deal.
So are all the books the same?
We know they don't
page
give a
count,
shit
though?
about
because a
us.
larger book.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying, right?
A few extra ads.
If they don't give a shit about us, why are we trying to save their system?
Right,
ads,
exactly. I agree. I mean, Tom, at a certain point, I mean, you know me. You know me for a long time. I tried. I cared. I gave a shit.
Yeah, well, we all did. We all did. Tried to make this work.
But at the point at which I made this decision to do this new concept store, and I've spent the last year with Jesse and Bryan trying to explain, dealers, I want to have all 1,200 of you around. But if you don't figure out a way to survive the day that diamond box doesn't show up, and I've said it at least 24 times on this show, you're dead. Yeah. And I'm trying to get you to figure out there's other ways that you need to start building. And that's why I honestly started crying when I was watching that episode, because I'm like, I didn't feel like what I had said for the last year fell on deaf ears because you heard it.
Oh yeah. No, I've pivoted big time. So I still need the traffic of people coming for new comic book.
Mall.
I'm going to open I'm in
a dead mall. I'm literally in a dead mall.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have a bunch around us too. I'm actually looking at for a second shop, but I got a lot of things going on. I'm looking at some big license, possibly from a movie company, and so I got a lot of stuff going on, but possibly a second store. But
I think we're back on, guys. So don't tell any super secrets.
So you're in a dead mall. Is there anybody else in the mall really? Like, is it?
I mean,
how dead is
there's
it?
Bath and Body Works, there's Spencer's, there's my two stores, and then there's a flea market at the end. There's a hair coloring place that you buy
salon.
extensions.
There's no threading. There's no threading place.
No, well, there is a knitting shop that opened up all the way at the other end, but it's just a whole lot of ladies that just come in to crochet every day. So literally, and I mean, we just got our second thing in the food court, which is a cereal bar. We have a movie theater, but we have the best movie theater for 30 miles in every direction. And people come to the movie theater.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And everybody shows up 30 minutes to an hour early for a movie now. And then they go wander the mall. And then they find a store that sells pop culture. And then they reminisce about when the mall was successful. Yeah. And that's all I need. It's all I need to get that nostalgia bug and draw them in, and they will find something that reminds them of their childhood.
Do you
have real quick? Hold on, real quick. I want to just say this: if we lose any more internet, I'll try and figure it out. But I'm hoping that it's okay. We'll cross our fingers. There's a couple people who are in the back right now, and we're just doing industry and creators tonight, you guys. So J-Man, and I appreciate you jumping on, but we're just doing industry and creator stuff tonight. So thank you. Go ahead, Jesse.
So do you order from any other distributors for those stores? Or is it all old stuff you're buying off the street?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah.
Oh no, I mean, here's the thing. I source from anywhere. I went to that anime show that I do, and they have what they call the garage sale, anime garage sale, and everybody brings their old crap. I bought 100 Skylanders from one kid. I bought 50
Skylanders
of those.
are great, man.
Oh, they are. Yeah. I bought.
So, but
50.
do you order anything new? That's why I'm asking you from any.
Yeah. I buy a lot of stuff on Temu, just little knickknacks that people can buy. I buy things that I can put in gumball dispensers to.
Alibaba's cheaper.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Okay.
Yeah.
But either
So
way,
you're still dealing with distributors, no matter, regardless of you not dealing with Diamond, you're still dealing with distributors.
yeah, but for different stuff now, stuff that
No,
I
that's
can't
fine.
get
That's
from
fine.
the general public.
Yeah.
That was just
And those stupid little sticker packs from Temu are gold.
yeah.
Now, we were calling attention earlier to the in-house ads with DC. The one thing that myself, Larry, Max DeVille, a few others have done is we've actually cross-pollinated ads for our different IPs through our different crowdfunding efforts. And then we've also, you'll see us pick up ads from other folks. So what I was going to show you guys, Tipping Your Time Traveling Psychedelic Mushroom, the back was an ad for Mavericks by Neff and Frequency Girl, two fantastic creators. And then let me see if I can show the interior ad without getting us demonetized. Let me cover something up here.
Don't cancel us, Google.
Yeah, they actually sent me a notice that they were canceling one of my videos I uploaded, and they haven't. It's still there. I had age restricted it, and it was a weird situation. But then Gemini comic mailers as well on the inside, and each of those able to zero out Gemini mailer costs. Hell yeah. The ad in the back helped pay, basically cover costs. You know? So things like that to help mitigate it without being too intrusive on your customer, I think worked pretty darn well.
I said that's the biggest thing, that when comics stopped advertising, they got rid of the reason why they don't have really real advertising is because they got rid of that whole sales crew.
Yep.
Right? They saved that money by getting rid of that, but then they had no income coming in.
Well, can I just also, I'm just want to throw this out there because I actually came up with this idea like 10 years ago when I saw Marvel and DC's ads just disappear.
Yeah.
For like real stuff, video games and all of that.
Yep.
That was right around the time the newsstands ended as well. And all of the sudden, I got the feeling that we are the suckers that are paying for everything. Why should we even sell advertising to offset that? We'll just keep raising the price on the retailers.
Yeah.
So
true.
The thing about it is that little small ads that are, your potential ad revenue there is really impacted by your distribution. So if you're only selling a few thousand books on a copy like I do, 2,000-3,000, that's not a lot of copies to get out there to inspire ad spend. When people can spend $50 on Facebook, Facebook will tell them, they're saying, oh, we're going to put a 3